Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Lifestyle CEO Show. I'm your host, Donna Maria, the original Lifestyle CEO, and you have arrived at the one place on your internet dial where we empower you to break all the rules, build your own corporate ladder, and create the life you love. You guys know that I have been on a little bit of a summer hiatus here lately. The last 2 weeks we've had encore shows from a couple of our more popular shows from earlier this year and last year. So I'm really, really excited to be back here with you today. We've got a great show for you. And for those of you who don't know, I have just relocated my family and my business and everything that I didn't consider clutter in my life to the great state of North Carolina. I'm down here in Charlotte, which, according to the most recent issue of Entrepreneur magazine, is the top place for entrepreneurs in the southeastern part of the United States. You need to check out that magazine. I think it's the September issue because I just got it a couple of days ago, which describes some of the best cities in the country for entrepreneurs in terms of taxes and all kinds of stuff like that. So here I am, setting up shop in my new office, and I'm so excited to be with you here today on the Lifestyle CEO Show. And you know we are all about empowering people in their lives and in their businesses, but I got to tell you guys, the front page of today's New York Times kind of knocked me for a loop. And I'm going to start by giving you some of that information, not to start your day off on a bad note or anything, but really just to empower and encourage you to keep plugging away at your business. There's an article on the front page of the New York Times that talks about the state of the American worker today. And let me just share some of the statistics that this article contains. The median hourly wage for American workers has declined 2% since 2003. Okay, of course, the rate of inflation continues to climb. And despite the rising inflation rate, the buying power of an average employee's wages and benefits is just about what it was in 1966. Okay, I'm not going to give away my age here, but I was teeny, very little back then. So check that out. Despite the rising inflation rate, most people who are living on a general employees' wages, with including their benefits, is about what it was in 1966. Worker productivity rose 16.6% from 2000 to 2005, but guess what? Compensation for the average worker rose 7.2%. What does that mean? That means we're producing more, but guess what? The people who are producing it are not experiencing the return for their hard work. And I got to tell you, if that's not a wake-up call to the value, the benefit, almost the necessity of owning your own business and creating your own revenue streams to control your own lifestyle and your own income, then I don't think anything else is. And so we are here today to help you do that. And to help me help you do that today, we have got a great guest. She is the E-Zine Queen herself, Alexandria Brown. Now, you guys, you got to get out your pens or your recording devices or whatever, because you've got to get this lady's information. She is an expert at empowering you to create the best online publication. I'm not talking about something with just pretty pictures and nice words, but something that can increase your brand awareness and increase your sales. Alexandria Brown, as I said, is the E-Zine Queen. She has a long history in corporate America, but several years ago she decided to take control of her own destiny and form her own marketing communications firm. She has written several books to help people. The first, in 2001, called Boost Business with Your Own E-Zine, which has won multiple awards for books for entrepreneurs. She has a conference to help people start their own businesses and benefit from the power of an E-Zine. And I could just go on and on. You can learn more yourself at ezinequeen.com. Welcome to the show, Alexandria Brown, the E-Zine Queen.
Oh, thank you so much, Donna. This is such a great show. I'm so excited. Well, especially when I heard the name of it. I'm like, this is perfect for me. And I'm so glad that you mentioned what you saw in that paper today, because it also makes, it makes all of us feel better when we have our own business to remind us why we left that whole world, the working world.
Yeah, I hope it does. And for people who are in the state of flux, who maybe haven't left it or are thinking about leaving it, hopefully it provides some incentive. It's really not all about, the doom and gloom and, living in our ailing condition, but actually fixing it. And we have the power to do that, particularly because we have access to technology today that we may not have 10 or so years ago. But let's talk about you, Alexandria. I'd like to know a little bit more, and I know my listeners would too, about how you transitioned from working for someone else to owning your own business. Tell us just a little bit about that so we can know you.
Well, this should be a funny story because I'm sure there's some people listening out there, and when I'm done, they're going to be like, all right, if this chick can do this, then I can, because this was a bumpy ride. My last job was about 7 years ago. I was working at a small ad agency in New York City, and I had worked my way up to being a copywriter. And what a copywriter does is she writes the ads, the brochures, the newsletters for the clients. And I had gotten really good at doing that, Donna, because I really studied under my mentors and also invested some of my own money in training and some courses. You know, I realized that my bosses didn't really care about me moving up the ladder. I had to take advantage of that and do that for myself. Well, I was working in my little cube one day, and we'd gotten really busy, so we'd hired a freelance copywriter, someone who worked on their own to help us out. And this guy, I think his name was Jim. Well, I saw Jim's bill pass my desk one day, and I saw how much he charged for this project and was getting for this project, and he got to work from home, and he got to just pop in when he felt like it, and he got to do the same amount of work, and he made in like a month what I made all year. And I said, you know what, I want to be a freelancer. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to quit my job and do that. And so I just quit. I didn't even think about it. I knew that that's what I wanted to do, and I was so unhappy going from job to job. I was so tired looking for the job that was going to make me happy. I said, well, you know what, maybe working on my own will do this. And I left, and I was in for a rude awakening, though, because I realized that my number one problem was actually going to be finding clients. Mm-hmm. The marketing is more important than the mastery. And this is what I teach in my workshops and to my coaching groups. The marketing is more important than the mastery. You can have the best skill in the world at what you do. You can leave your job to start a business because, well, most people leave a job to start a business because they're good at doing a thing. You know, let's say they're a good accountant, or they're a good, freelance writer, or they're a good, dog groomer. Any type of business, you go to do your own business because you're good at this thing, and then you realize you're actually in the business of marketing the thing. Yeah, this is so crucial for people to understand. And this is why I make a full-time living now teaching marketing, because if you can master the marketing, any business you ever start, you will be successful in. Mm-hmm. So back then, I didn't know what type of marketing to do, though. So the first thing I did was I asked all my other broke freelancer friends, what do you guys do to market? And I wasn't too smart. But they said we go to all these networking meetings. And so I suited up and took my little briefcase and went all over the city to all these breakfasts and lunches and dinners and met a lot of nice people, but they most of them weren't ready or interested in my services. And I was just brokenhearted and about to just give up and say, my God, maybe I'm not cut out to own my own business. I should go back and ask for my job back. But then one morning, I remember coming home. I had a little apartment up in Greenwich Village. Have you ever been to Greenwich Village in New York City? Mm-hmm. Oh, it's so cute, but I had this dumpy little apartment up 5 flights of stairs. And that morning just came home and collapsed and just in tears and said, my gosh, I can't do this anymore. I logged onto my computer to actually tell my mom. I was about to type my mom and say that I can't do this anymore. I'm looking for a job. And I looked at my email and I said, you know what, I haven't even tried doing this email thing, and this is free, and I'm broke. Let me try doing some marketing with email.
I like that. It's free and I'm broke.
Just one last chance, right?
Maybe that's a sign.
Totally. And I was like, well, I'm meeting all these people. I need a way to follow up. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to bug them and do those phone calls. So what I did is I started just putting together a simple email tip of the week that shared a little bit about what I knew, how to write to promote your business, and started with a list of 10 people, which included my parents and my cat. Mm-hmm. And from there, Donna, I didn't even have a website. I didn't know what to call this, an E-Zine, E-Zine, e-newsletter. It was just taking a little bit of what I knew and sharing it with the world. Mm-hmm. And an amazing thing happened. People started forwarding my little email tips around. Mm-hmm. And then a few months later, business started coming in. People would say, oh, I read that newsletter. A friend forwarded me, and you wrote a newsletter about how to write a good brochure for your business. Well, I'd like to hire you to do that. And little things like that would start happening. And then months later, I had landed some big contracts with companies like Dun & Bradstreet, New York Times Digital, and Scholastic Books. So this little email that I started out of my little apartment, fast forward to today, I have an email newsletter list in my E-Zine. Same thing, by the way. We'll talk about that in a minute. I have 20,000 readers. I now make a living with information marketing, which is really just still along the same lines, sharing what I know with everybody about marketing and how to market your business, and especially how to use the Internet to do that. And what's amazing, Donna, is that, like, you know, when I look back to that last job I had, I now make that in a month, every month, and what I made in that annual salary. And it's really just completely changed my world, and it's changing my students' worlds as well.
So you're like that guy whose invoice came across your desk.
Even more.
Yeah,
a lot more.
That's so wonderful, and I love that you shared that story. Thank you so much, because, you know, we want to know, you know, your story and where you come from and how your journey has brought you to where you are. So thank you for sharing that. And, again, for anyone who, you know, has ever come home to their tiny apartment and just fallen out on the floor in tears, and I have done that, and sometimes don't even wait to get home, just wherever I am at the post office or whatever, just collapse, because it can be that frustrating sometimes. But what you help people do is take the power of an email program and create it and use it to create sales and revenue.
That is the core of what I teach now.
Right, and who doesn't need that, right?
Every business, and especially, you know, the small business owner, and you know, there's all this doom and gloom and talk about email's gonna die, we're all gonna be paying for email's gonna be taxed, and could email change? Yes, absolutely. I mean, all technology changes and evolves, but right now, I mean, still, for the amount of power you get with an email, I mean, for pennies, it's crazy for any business owner not to be taking advantage of this technology.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you, and I love what you said earlier, too, about, you know, really just being able to, you know, no matter what it is that you do well, you've got to be able to market it, because, like you said, you can have the best product in the world, you can be the best service provider in the world, but if nobody knows about it, you might as well, you know, go to your tiny apartment and have a pity party. So we're going to talk today about helping empower people to use the Internet, use an email newsletter to change that. So, Alex, can you tell us, we're going to take a break in a few minutes, but in the few minutes that we have before that, can you just tell just really quickly what are some of the reasons, in addition to the obvious, that people should use a newsletter to grow their business, no matter what they're doing, from selling paper clips to, you know, books?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you that I have 7 quick reasons. I'll give you the first one, which I feel is more important. A lot of us were trained to advertise by bragging, just saying, you know, we have the best services. We're number one. This is how I learned in the ad agency. You basically brag about what you do and hope people believe you. Well, but there's too much information out there for people to believe anything, and there's so much garbage out there that people don't believe anything. What they're looking for is an expert. They're looking for someone who can prove they know more than other people, or at least appear to be the expert. So the number one reason, of my 7 powerful reasons that you should publish an E-Zine, is that an E-Zine will sell for you, because you're then sharing information with people instead of just bragging. So, for example, let's say that you have, I love the dog groomer business because it's just kind of, strange. So let's say you're a dog groomer and you want to publish an E-Zine. Well, you could share some simple tips on taking care of your dog that go out once a week, and how to, keep your dog cleaner or happier or healthier. And by you doing that, people will start seeing you as an expert over the person down the street who just grooms dogs. So it's really positioning yourself in a way that people see you as the go-to person. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. It's a wonderful tip and a great way to go into our first break. And I love the way you said that you used to just have to brag and hope people believe you, and how empowering it is to know that you can give people information to bolster your credibility. Thanks for that first tip. We're going to take our first break today and come back and talk more with Alexandria Brown, the E-Zine Queen. We'll be right back.
Why is everyone listening to globaltalkradio.com? Because it's the future of talk radio. Every day, more and more people are finding Internet radio as not just an alternative media, but as a replacement to traditional AM and FM broadcast stations. Internet radio offers a wider variety of programs, convenient on-demand listening that meets your schedule, and fewer commercial interruptions. And globaltalkradio.com is already leading the way by matching this content with a highly targeted Internet audience. globaltalkradio.com offers its listeners one of the widest programming varieties on the Internet, from business and finance to self-improvement, paranormal, health, literature, romance, politics, and more. There are also opportunities for prospective hosts who would like to host their own weekly or one-time talk shows. Want to learn more? Check us out at www.globaltalkradio.com and see the future of talk radio today.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Lifestyle CEO Show. I'm your host, Donna Maria, the original Lifestyle CEO, and we are here today with Alexandria Brown, the E-Zine Queen herself, who has just shared with us her first of 7 reasons for why you need an online newsletter. And number 1 is that it will sell for you, and what a great reason to have an online newsletter. I want to let you guys know that you can call in your questions or comments to the E-Zine Queen right here on our toll-free number, 800-773-0355. That's 800-773-0355. If you call in, you might have to hold for a minute or two before we can fit you in. We definitely want to hear from you, though. Alexandria, what are some of the other reasons why you need an E-Zine?
Well, Don, we just covered one. The first one was that an email newsletter or E-Zine, same thing basically, will sell for you. So instead of having to do follow-up calls or doing cold calls with people or trying to do a lot of advertising, if you can advertise your free tips, people will sign up. And that leads us to number 2, which is growing a list for you to market to again and again. You know, it takes about, I think the Direct Marketing Association says it takes about 9 times for someone to see your message before they will even really, it'll register with them. And then, let alone for them to take action, even more times than that. And this is a mistake a lot of small business owners make. They'll buy one ad or put up one flyer or something like that and say, well, you know what, that didn't work. Well, it's about repetition. And you can have a crappy ad or a crappy flyer, and even if people just see that more, that's the one they will respond to. Frequency is very important. Now, that's a lot of work, though, and that's a lot of money to pay for multiple advertising. So what an email newsletter does is it helps you grow this mailing list so you have an audience of people already interested in your topic, and you can market to them over and over and over again. And your objective is to get as many people into this list as possible. This way you have more chance of people actually using your services and your products. And what's great, Don, is that once you've built up a list as well, you can offer them other types of products and services. If you know what your target market is like, for example, let's go back to that dog groomer example. If Wendy the dog groomer starts some tips on taking care of pets and, you know, the dogs, well, maybe those people will be interested in some holistic types of dog food, and then maybe Wendy could be selling that dog food on the side and get a commission on that as well. You see, once you have that audience, you can learn what their problems are and solve them.
Right. You know, and it's real interesting, too, because it doesn't matter what it is that you're selling. This kind of concept is transferable. I know, as you know, I'm the president of the Handmade Beauty Network, and our members manufacture cosmetics products. And we do have some who manufacture products that are designed for pets, like dog shampoos and, you know, aromatherapy mists for dogs and things. And what a great compliment to whatever kind of cosmetic product you're selling, and whether it's for animals or yourselves or both, that you can share with people other information about taking care of yourself or your pet or eating correctly and complementing your good health eating regime with a good skincare regime and fitness and all that stuff. There's just no end to it, right?
Did you just say aromatherapy for dogs?
Yeah. Yes. Well, if you're interested, I know you said you have a cat. I know someone who's on using aromatherapy for cats. But the point is that even if you manufacture products and you're not specifically selling a service, you can still use the information that's at your fingertips to share with people, right? Because people want to know more information about, things that will enhance their lives.
Yeah, people, and when people are looking to, they're looking for information on the internet, especially. Let's suppose someone finds you through the internet, which would be great. Well, they're looking for information. They're not looking to buy something right away. They're looking for a solution or information. And so getting them on the newsletter list solves their immediate need, and then they realize over time that you are the product or service that they really need.
That's right. And when you see someone over and over again, they automatically have an impression in your brain. So we've got, it sells for you, it gives you a list of people to market to over and over again. And so, Alex, what would number 3 be?
Number 3 is that this will automatically position you as an expert in your field. Now, I know most people listening right now, and even if some people have been in business for years, they say, well, I'm not the expert in my field. You know, those are the people who've been doing it for 20 years or 30 years and have all these degrees and blah, blah, blah. No. Starting right now, you are an expert. And I'll give you a quick example. When I started E-ZineQueen.com, I was not an expert in e-zines. I just said, you know what? I'm going to share a little bit of what I know and how to get an e-zine going to get you more business, because this is what my friends were asking me to do. And so after about, only about a year or so, I was working at my desk and my phone rang. This is before I had Liz to answer my calls because I'm so busy now. And I picked it up and I said, "Good morning, this is Allie." And the caller said, "Good morning, my name's Andrew Blackman and I'm calling from the Wall Street Journal." And I cut him off. And I said, "Andrew, you know, I really like the paper, but it just wasn't worth keeping the subscription because I didn't read it every day. And you guys keep calling. And frankly, this is getting really annoying. And I'd like you guys to take me off your list." And he was silent for a second. And then he said, "Ms. Brown, I don't think you understand. I'm a reporter for the Wall Street Journal."
Right.
And I paused and then said, "Good morning. How can I help you?" Well, it turned out...
Let me start over.
Start over, reboot. He was writing an article on email marketing for small businesses, and he wanted to interview me. I mean, how many of you would not mind that happening to you one morning? The reason this happened is that he found my website, and then he said, "Allie, I'd signed up for your email tips to see if you really knew your stuff." And he goes, "I liked them." He said they were really simple, easy to understand. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, my gosh, this stuff's so simple. Why would this guy from the Wall Street Journal care? But you know what? People like easy to understand information. You don't have to write the book on your topic and you have some advanced degree and uncover some numerical about your industry. People just like good information, and that got me interviewed for the Wall Street Journal.
You know, thank you for saying that. And, you know, I want to back up for a little bit to something that you said at the beginning of that part of our discussion about being an expert. Alexandria, why do you think it's so difficult for people who are making a living selling something to say that they are an expert at it?
Because, Donna, when we grew up with this ascension model in our lives, this ladder climbing model. Like in school, we go from 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade. And in college, we're freshman, sophomore, junior. And then in a lot of industries, you have to get this degree and that degree. And then you work 5 years and then you earn this much. And we're taught that we have to climb this ladder, that we can't just take the elevator to the top. And so I tell my coaching clients, I get in their mindset that they have to leapfrog and not ladder climb. And it really is a mindset shift, and it's hard for a lot of people. And it was hard for me, too. But I never said I was the expert, but this is a great thing. You don't have to say it. Just start sharing some tips every week. Maybe write an article or a how-to or top 10 list for your local paper. Or write a little report on, tips for people who use your services. Just by sharing information, people think that you are an expert. So you won't have to come out and say that, even if you're not comfortable.
Right. And if someone does ask you whether you're an expert, you kind of got to practice looking in the mirror and saying yes, right? Because the wrong answer is the wrong answer when they're standing, in your office about to write you a check or at your trade show booth about to buy a bunch of your products. The wrong answer is no, I'm not an expert at whatever it is I'm selling.
Yeah, if you do, and I don't think many people do ask. They just assume. That's the wonderful thing about positioning. But if you are asking, you should say, yes, I am, and how can I help you?
Yeah, and I love that you talked about the corporate ladder, because, of course, the Lifestyle CEO is all about building your own corporate ladder and climbing it or leapfrogging it however you'd like. And so isn't it empowering, Alexandria, that we live in a day and age when you can do that?
Oh, my
gosh. Because it hasn't always
it's
been that way.
It scares some people, especially, I'm glad you just brought that up, when people leave in corporations. That is how it all works. You know, like you're 3 years at this position, and then you become an associate, then you become a VP, assistant, something, blah, blah, blah. And then and suddenly people are out in the working world of their own business, and they think they have to start at the bottom. They don't just know they can leapfrog to the top. But that's the wonderful thing. That's the exciting thing about what we do.
Right, and particularly because if you have had that job experience, don't you already bring a lot of stuff to the table that's accumulated sort of in your knapsack of knowledge and your knapsack of experiences that enhance your ability to market whatever it is you're doing on your own, right?
Yeah, and I think, and maybe I want to know if you agree with me on this. I mean, most people don't realize what they know until they get out there and see what people don't know. So there's another thing that will make you feel like an expert, because I thought, everyone would know how to put together a simple email newsletter and publish it. No one's going to pay for that information. Well, I built a wonderful business now around this, around teaching people this very simple thing. And for all of you out there, you are very knowledgeable in one topic, and because you hang out with other people in your industry, you think that everyone knows that, but that's not true. Sharing simple tips on what you do will get you more business than you ever imagined.
Oh, wow, that is so great. And so we've got your 3 tips so far, and we've got just 4 more to go. We're going to cover 1 more before we go to our next break. So we've got Alexandria's tips, making sure that you get that E-Zine out there. What's the 4th one? We just talked about how it positions you as an expert in your field.
Sure. The 4th one, and this is simple, and it's kind of a given, but I want you to all think about this. It's the perfect way to stay in touch with your current clients and prospects. You want to stay on your clients and your customers and your prospects' radar screens in a way that's not obnoxious. You need to be in front of them all the time. It's not your clients and prospects' job to remember that you're still there and that you're still in business. I talked to so many small business owners, and they said, well, I might do one deal with this client, and then they really forget about me. Well, it's your job to remind them. It's your job to ask for referrals. It's your job to knock on their door and kind of poke your head in and say, hey, remember me? I'm still here. Well, an email newsletter does this for you. You get them on the list, and then you publish that little tip every week or every 2 weeks, and it does it automatically for you.
That's really great. It's not their job to remember you. I love that you said that. And, this is so great, Alexandria, because it's so simple. These tips are so simple. Thank you for sharing them. We're going to go to our next break, but I want to tell you guys before we go to visit the E-Zine Queen's website at ezinequeen.com. There's a link there, a pop-up link that will tell you how you can register for her 3-day Blueprint for Success coming up in November in the Los Angeles area. She's going to tell us a little bit more about that when we come back from our break. This is the Lifestyle CEO Show. We'll be right back.
Want to stay on top of what's new in the radio industry? Sign up for a free subscription to the Future of Talk Radio, available exclusively to listeners of globaltalkradio.com, and find out what's new in the world of online radio. Listeners can find out about new shows and special guests. People with something special to offer can find out how to become a guest and how to prepare for an interview. And prospective hosts will find a valuable resource for everything from planning the new program to selecting topics and guests, recouping expenses by selling advertising, and more. Sign up today for your free subscription to the Future of Talk Radio by visiting www.globaltalkradio.com and learn about the future of talk radio today.
Hey, you guys, welcome back to the Lifestyle CEO Show. I want to give you a little bit of information about some events and activities that are coming up soon. Of course, it's the end of August, so everybody's getting their kids back in school or kind of getting the last little bit of summer vacation out of the way, but we're going to rev things up during the fall at the Lifestyle CEO. We've got a September 23rd Lifestyle CEO workshop for entrepreneurs in the natural aromatics industry. all you aromatherapy people and folks out there making your own beauty products, this is a workshop for you to get tons of information on making your business as successful as possible. And then in October, I'm going to be joining Lisa Price of Carol's Daughter. Once again, we have teamed up at the Open Center in New York City to talk at a 2-day workshop, an interactive workshop, to get information to you about being successful in business. We're going to talk about trademarking. We're going to talk about branding. We're going to talk about steps to take to get to the point where you want your business to be and beyond. And today we have Alexandria Brown, the E-Zine Queen, who's giving us some detailed information and real easy to understand steps about why it's important to publish our own E-Zine for our business. And Alexandria's got some events coming up too. Why don't you tell us about those before we get to the last reasons to have an E-Zine, Alexandria?
Oh, sure. Well, it's very exciting. This will be the third live event that I've ever done, and I tell you, they're a lot of work, but they're a ton of fun, aren't they?
Yeah, they're a lot of work and a ton of fun. It's a wonderful thing to do. The networking is always great. That's why I want people to know about yours.
Yeah, they are. And my workshop's called the Online Success Blueprint Workshop. It is for solo entrepreneurs, like a lot of you listening today, and it's how to use the Internet, so your website and email, to build your mailing list, to make sales happen effortlessly while you're sleeping, while you're on vacation, how to publish your newsletter to get known as an expert. All this stuff we're talking about today, this gives you the whole big picture. And if you'd like to get on my list for free, go to EzineQueen.com. I have my newsletter. It's called Straight Shooter Marketing, and it's super sweet, simple marketing tips for all types of small businesses. And if you'd like to see an email newsletter or E-Zine that makes a lot of money, this is a good one to model. I tell people, feel free, sign up, see what I do, and model it because it works beautifully.
Yeah, well, definitely. I love that piece of advice. When you find somebody that's doing something well, you can transfer the principles and the concepts and the actions to your own business and let her rip, right?
Mm-hmm. It's so funny how many people think they have to struggle or they think they have to figure it out on their own, like they have to earn it. And you already deserve this. You should find a mentor, find someone like Donna or myself, someone you click with who has the information you need, who has the lifestyle you want. I love that word in your show title because it's so important. That's what we're doing this for. It's not to work harder. It's to work in a different way that we're happier than ever in what we do.
That's right, and it's so important to talk about that working in a different way and being the CEO of your lifestyle and your business. That's what it's all about. And you've really got a really great way of sharing not just the information about email marketing, Alexandria, but also the example that you are setting just by living your life and doing what you love to do. And so it's a wonderful 1-2 punch for me to be able to share you with my Lifestyle CEO listeners. Now, we've talked about your 4 of your 7 reasons to have an E-Zine, and just by way of quick review, to tee it up for the last 3, we've got number 1, it sells for you. Number 2, it gives you a list of people to market to over and over again. Number 3, it automatically positions you as an expert in your field. Number 4, it's the perfect way to stay in touch with clients and prospects. Can you share with us the last 3, Alexandria?
Sure. Number 5 is this E-Zine will effortlessly spread the word about your business for you. So you don't have to work so hard at marketing because this newsletter will get passed around. Even if you write just a decent E-Zine and have decent tips, your readers will pass them on to friends and colleagues and sometimes all over the world. And this can happen very quickly. I have a success story of mine, a woman named Rebecca Metler. She's a public relations consultant in California. So you'd think a PR woman would be pretty good at getting the word out about herself, but she always jokes, it's like the cobbler's kids have no shoes. She said, Allie, I do great stuff for my clients, but I just haven't been able to do this for myself. I won't make the time. And here's what she wrote me. She said, Allie, I just sent out my first newsletter today. You won't believe this. Within about 20 minutes of my finally sending it out, I got contacted by a huge corporation who wants me to do some consulting for them. They were forwarded my E-Zine from someone on my list, and as soon as I sent it out, she apparently sent it over. So my return on investment was within minutes. I'm now sold on how easy it is to market with E-Zines. Thank you. Now, that's an extreme example. I mean, that happened within minutes, but we've all taken an email with something useful and forwarded it to a friend. you know, especially women. We love doing this. We're forwarding stuff to each other all day.
Exactly.
You know. Number 6 is an E-Zine is the ideal way to get your web visitors on your list. And this is so huge, Donna. I want to make sure that everyone listening gets this. A lot of business owners, they get talked into doing a fancy website that looks really pretty and makes their products look beautiful and you know, has nice colors and all this stuff. Maybe it has some animation or a flash intro. You probably wasted a lot of money. I need you to focus on something else. And here's what you'd have to focus on. Let's say I'm your prospect. Let's say I did a web search and I found you and came to your website. Well, when I visit your site today, there's a 99% chance I am not going to buy from you today. Isn't that sad? That really is the truth, though. You've likely lost me forever because I'm going to check it out. I'm like, oh, okay, I think I'll shop around a little bit. And then I click away and I leave. You need to capture me while I'm there. And so what you do is invite me to sign up for your free tips, your free E-Zine that features helpful information. So let's go back to, you said you have a lot of beauty clients. With beauty.
Right, manufacturers of beauty products.
Oh, perfect. So let's use that as an example. Let's say Susie Q has a site with maybe like homemade, beauty products, and I'm visiting her site. I'm thinking, this sounds pretty good. Well, what if Susie Q has an invitation right in that home page before I can even, before I start looking around, gets my attention and says, hey, free tips on natural, how to take care of yourself naturally and look 10 years younger, and also get some special coupons for our products. Well, how can I resist that? I'm going to give you my name and my email right away. So this is how you do this to get people on your list, and then follow up with that weekly tip and a little tidbit. Or people love discounts. They love feeling like they're a VIP. You can call it your VIP list. There's a lot of different ideas, and these are what I teach, and I actually walk you through the steps for all this in my courses. But that gives you an idea of how important it is to capture web visitors. And this is how I built a list of 20,000 people over the last 5 years. And now those people are my bread and butter. They are my income, so I take great care of them. And they all visited my website at one point or another. But they all go back and eventually, most of them go back and buy something because they've been on the list for a while. They need to build up that know, like, and trust factor. They need to build up a relationship before they buy. And that's something else that the email does for you.
And that is such a great way to put it. When you talked about capturing that person who has come to your website, obviously because they thought they'd find something of interest there. They may not be ready to pull out their credit card, but they will give you their email address if you're going to provide them with, as you said, chances to win free products or even just information that will be useful to them.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you're asking someone out on a date, it's like you go for the coffee date first before you're like, hey, let's jump in the sack. You know what I mean? It's like you want the shy yes. You want them just to say, oh, sure, okay, I can just give you my name and email and get some free tips. There's no commitment, right? We're not getting married. It's very simple. And then you work your way up from there. With the relationship, you have to build trust when you're going to buy from someone.
It's so funny that you used that analogy. When my husband and I were dating, well, actually, when we first started going out, I told him that we were having get-togethers and not dates. And so that's why I felt like, he was calling it a date. I'm like, it's a get-together until we
call it a date.
A little bit of a, whatever I think and we both think is appropriate, and then we'll be dating. We'll see if we get there. So we had get-togethers for a while. But it's kind of like what you're describing. You get together with your newsletter subscribers for a while before they feel comfortable enough to take another step with you. And you hope they will feel comfortable. And even if they don't, even if they just refer you to someone else, that can be a beneficial communication as well.
Oh, absolutely. That's a great point. I mean, maybe, Jane Doe on your list won't buy, but she'll forward it to her friend Mary, and then Mary ends up buying and subscribing. So this is going to do you so much good either way. I mean, it's going to position you as the expert and get your tips out there and get you well-known and get you sales. There's just so much it does. Now, do we have time for the last tip?
We absolutely do, yeah.
Okay, cool. The last one, and this is kind of a no-brainer, but I want to remind everybody that this nearly costs you nothing. And E-Zine is cheap and easy to publish compared especially with a printed newsletter. I don't know if, Donna, have you ever had to publish a printed newsletter at some point?
Well, actually, I do have a print magazine, and it is
Great.
tons more time and energy.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying the Internet is end-all. In fact, when I'm coaching, I tell my clients to reach their prospects in more than one way. I myself do direct mail. I do, with my coaching clients, I do fax broadcast and voice broadcast. I do postcards, all kinds of stuff. But I mean, for pennies on the dollar, this is something that's a no-brainer and you should be doing. And we take email for granted that with a push of a button, you can reach 1 million people at a time if you needed to. And so we just take that for granted. We take it, we think it's all just so, it's part of our lives right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, remember when if you wanted to have an online business or really any kind of business at all the rage was making sure that you had some kind of a website. And now it's like, to some extent, a website can be a mere fraction of its, reach a mere fraction of its full potential without an online newsletter. It's almost, in some respects, like not having a fully formed website at all without one.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of an analogy. Maybe you can help me, because I'm glad you brought that up. It's kind of like having, the website is your store, but then if there's no one working in it, no one can buy, so you need that. The email newsletter is your salesperson, and that does the work for you.
Yeah, that's a pretty good analogy. I bet if we put our heads together, we could come up with another one. And I know that there's plenty of people out there that can. But it's almost like a bicycle with a flat wheel.
Okay, there's one. That's a good one too. Yeah,
you still pedal it forward, but you're not going to ever be able to reach the kind of momentum that you have the potential capacity to reach unless you put air in that tire.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, it's probably not the best analogy, but, if anybody's ever tried to ride a bike on a flat wheel, which I have when I was stuck with no other form of transportation, you got to do that. But, that's a really, really great point, is that, it really kind of gives your website wings in many respects.
Yes.
And so tell me a little bit about, by the way, guys, if you've missed any of these, Alexandria Brown's The E-Zine Queen, 7 reasons why you need to have an online newsletter, you can get them from a variety of different places. Number one, you can listen to the archive of the Lifestyle CEO show at lifestyleceo.com, which will be up in a day or so. But you can also go to Alexandria's website at ezinequeen.com, subscribe to her newsletter, go through the website. There's a lot of free articles and information at your website to keep people coming back.
Yeah, and let me spell that too, my site, because some people mishear it and they think it's easy, or they get confused. It's E-Zine, EZINE.com. Z as in zebra, I, N as in Nancy, E.com. E-Zine is short for electronic magazine. That's where the word came from. And so,
do you archive your E-Zine at your website, Alexandria?
I don't archive the entire E-Zine, and do you want me to share why?
Please, yes.
Okay, because that's a question I get often. People say, well, why don't you just take the whole newsletter and stick them up there and have all your archives? Well, the reason I do it is for a few reasons. Number one is, what I'd rather do is take out the article, which is the main chunk of content, and just stick that at the website, because that's what people are coming to read anyway. They want that main, the how-to tips. The second reason is search engines love content, and they want to see meaty content. So if I stick up my newsletter, there's going to be a lot of stuff and junk in there before it gets to the article. Before my articles in the newsletter, I have a note from me, some updates on my life. I have my upcoming teleclasses and workshops and all that stuff. Well, that's going to get in the way of the search engines reading it. So I just want the article up there. And the third reason is because of that other stuff, the teleclasses and workshops, by the time someone goes and reads that, it's going to be outdated anyway. So I just put up the articles there and have a nice, neat article library that people like and that the search engines like. And if they want to see the newsletter, they can sign up.
That's great. So I love what you're describing, because what you're saying is that you put your best foot forward out there with an E-Zine, and you kind of figure out what works best for you and your website, right? So you kind of got to learn as you go a little bit without reinventing the wheel, of course. And that's where people like you come in. But, of course, figuring out the details that are specific to your business and what works best for you, there's going to be a little bit of that involved, right?
Yeah, and there's no perfect way to do things. It's a lot of, I hate to say trial and error because it sounds like it's a lot of work, but there is no way to fail. It's all testing. You know, in school we're taught if we don't get the right answer, we fail. And I think that's a very bad concept to take over to small business. There's no way we can fail. There's tests that we do. So whenever something didn't go the way I planned, I said, oh, well, that was a test, and we learned that we need to send out 5 emails instead of 3 to promote the workshop or something like that. You know what I mean? It's very important to always look at what you're doing as always testing and watching and tracking and seeing how many respond to this versus that. And it's very exciting once you get the hang out of it because you can see when you're going to get to a point that you actually can predict how many sales you'll get when you send out an email, and that's so exciting.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is, and you can also, isn't it fun to also take a look at your website statistics and see if you publish consistently on, you know, like, say, Monday morning at 1 a.m. or whatever time you publish, you can see the hits to your website spike.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, because, again, that's reminding them that you're there.
Yeah, yeah.
And this can happen for any business, and I want to emphasize, I'm even on some little, like, there's some beauty supply website I order from, some products that are hard to find, and they send me just a monthly coupon link. And, you know, I've never unsubscribed because I'm so happy they send me that little coupon every month. And every time they send the coupon, I order more stuff. So
right.
it could be that simple as well.
That works.
Totally.
It's great because I love what you just said, too, about how there's no such thing as failure. And with technology today, how simple is it to try something for a month or two and then go, okay, that's not working, let me tweak it and add this or maybe add a picture or add a coupon. It's very easy.
Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Well, the place I want to just caution people that I see a lot of people getting lazy is they don't want to track. I was never a numbers girl. I didn't like the numbers part of my business, but that is fun. It's really fun, actually, like you were saying, once you start looking at how many visitors you're getting on your site, how many sales, being able to track it. That's where the power is. And that's what online marketing is great because it is so trackable. If you run ads all through your community and papers or, you know, you go to a networking events, it's hard to tell exactly where your sales are coming from. Online, it's extremely easy to tell.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's another great tip. I mean, the information just doesn't stop coming. Now, Alexandria, what are some of the hardware that people need? What websites do you recommend that people can go to? Maybe just a few of some of the ones you know about to actually, you know, get the format that they need to, you know, do you have to have your own server or can you go someplace and get
No. There's so many great services out there. And I made the mistake in the beginning of not knowing that there were, you know, software and services to manage your list for you. I started my newsletter just, you know, I had AOL account and just started building a big group in my address book. And you can imagine over time that's going to get hairy. It's going to get crazy. So you need what's called an email publishing service or list service. And there are a few out there. I'll give you a few of the links to the ones I recommend, and I have my own links to them so they know I referred you. One is queencontact.com. That's my link to Constant Contact, and they have beautiful templates, so you can use templates, put in pictures of your products, pictures of you. I highly recommend you get a little personal with your newsletter. I don't know if we'll have time to talk about that, but you will get better. People respond better to a person than to a company. That's why a lot of companies out there you see have spokespeople. And
is that why you just mentioned that your newsletter contains a little bit of personal information about you?
Completely. That's what they go nuts for. People love it if I show pictures of my cat or talk about my crazy dating life or, you know, the newsletter is not about that. But right. I just mention a little thing here or there, and it opens up that whole connection of being human with people. Mm-hmm. So I definitely recommend that you use you published in color and graphics, and don't go crazy. This is also called HTML publishing. You don't need to know what it stands for, but that's what it is. Okay. So queencontact.com. Another one, if you go to queencart.com, C-A-R-T, that's my link to a system called One Shopping Cart, which is great, and that links your emails with your shopping cart if you sell products online, and it also has great tracking functions so you can track all these emails and if they actually lead to sales. So it does all the tracking for you. Those two systems are the most powerful ones I recommend and the simplest to use.
Oh, wonderful news. And do these charge like by the newsletter or by the month? How do they, what does someone who's new to this expect to spend for every newsletter? I know it probably varies, but is it expensive?
Yeah, it's usually a monthly charge, and it's based on how big your list is. Some systems it's unlimited for the month, just depending on how big your list is. Some of them it's how many emails you send. The lower end, you're looking at maybe only $20 a month. A list size like mine, 20,000 people, with sending out maybe 10 emails a month. I think I pay maybe $200 a month. But for the amount of money I'm making, at first it seems like a lot, but I'm telling you, for the price of a large pizza, you can get started. And you don't want to mess with these headaches. Use companies that are on top of all the spam laws, and they know how to get emails through, and they will take care of all the subscribes and unsubscribes. It's all automatic. You need that.
Right.
You should not be focusing on the technology.
Right, and that will give you time to focus on your content and also on the products and services that you sell and not fiddling with spam laws, which, of course, we have to be concerned about, but better to pay somebody else to do it, particularly when it's as inexpensive as you're describing.
Yeah, and by the way, speaking of spam, I just want to emphasize that you guys, none of us like to be signed up for something without giving permission. So once a lot of people hear about how great this E-Zine thing is, they just take their whole database and start publishing. Well, you're going to tick a lot of people off that way. So what you want to do is send out your first issue maybe as a sample to them and say, hey, this is my great new newsletter. If you'd like to subscribe, click here. Or if you'd rather not receive this, you can unsubscribe here. Just make sure you give people a choice. That's very, very important, and that is the law.
Right, and try to make it real easy for them to unsubscribe, not to make them click around and type in a bunch of stuff, because that really does put a bad taste in people's mouths. Well,
it is. Sure. Even when I have good friends sign me up for stuff, I'm like, hey, thanks, Mary, but you know what? I didn't ask for this. You should ask me next time. It hurt my feelings.
Yeah, well, I signed up for your newsletter, and I really do enjoy it, and I encourage everyone, as we mentioned earlier, to go to EzineQueen.com. You can get free articles. You can sign up for Alexandria's online E-Zine and see how a pro does it and adapt some of her concepts and things that she does. Find out what works for you and start putting E-Zine marketing to work for your business today. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. E-Zine Queen has been with us today, and you have just revved our engines up to, we're without excuse now to have an online newsletter. And, and we thank you for that because, it's all about putting together, the most efficient, cost-effective way to grow our business, and that's what we're about here at the Lifestyle CEO. So thank you for joining us. You guys, I've got a great show coming up for you next month. We're going to be kicking off September, back to school. And what are we going to be talking about in September? I've got guests lined up all month long to talk about book publishing. Why book publishing is so popular, more popular than it's ever been. How can you publish your book? Do you need an agent? Can you do it on your own? What's an ebook? How can you get an ebook? What do you need to do and be to write your own book? The book marketing expert, John Creamer, is going to be here next week, Monday, September 4th, to tell us all about it. In the meantime, I want you guys to have a great holiday weekend. I know we are not taking off next week because we're going to continue to help you build your business. Visit LifestyleCEO.com to listen to all the archives of the Lifestyle CEO Show and great guests like Alexandria Brown. See you next week, guys. In the meantime, break all the rules, build your own corporate ladder, and create the life you love.
You're listening to GlobalTalkRadio.com.